Geek Therapy Radio.
So sorry, but you're going down.
Welcome to the Geek Therapy Radio podcast. Getting back on track here with 3 podcasts per week. As promised recently, whittled down from 5, going to 3. Been trying to get into the groove here. Thank you so much once again for letting me get into my geek groove. There's other things that I like to geek out about. One of the things is I've been able to pay more attention to the YouTube channel. Just uploaded a cool YouTube video this week about netbooks, if you can believe it or stand it. I was messing around with the most powerful netbook from the year 2010 to see how the most powerful netbook from 2010 stacks up in 2020. Is it worth it? Short answer is no, but it's still a very fun video to explore. A format of ultra portable, well, ultra portables before ultra portables were ultra portable, and they aren't that ultra portable anymore. Netbooks aren't. Still fascinating. So, in this Geek Therapy Radio podcast, I think it's apropos if we start by discussing GeForce Now. This is kind of a subject that I've been watching like a train wreck. I talked about GeForce Now recently. I released a video about GeForce Now recently, and since its release, since it left beta, since it went public, NVIDIA GeForce Now has been a train wreck. Not as far as the technology is concerned. The technology around it all is pretty cool. We've discussed ad nauseum the caveats of cloud gaming in terms of latency and lag, but with GeForce Now, over a wired Ethernet connection and over a good 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi connection, it was sorcery. Absolute sorcery how well the games ran. I was playing Rocket League over cloud gaming with no discernible input lag that would have derailed the game or have thrown me off. I'm not the best Rocket League player in the world. I'm not the best esports player in the world. But playing over a hardwired Ethernet connection over Cat 5 or Cat 6 Ethernet and being relatively close within a few hundred miles of an NVIDIA server, it was a really good experience. So nobody's really harping on the technology of it all. I think most people who try cloud gaming and who try GeForce Now would be pleasantly surprised that it goes against whatever conventional qualms you'd have against it. Oh, it's going to be too laggy. Oh, it's not going to be that great. It ain't bad. The train wreck comes in that just within days of GeForce Now going public, they have been losing publishers. I like to play Doom. I liked to play Doom for 5 minutes on GeForce Now. Bethesda pulled out of NVIDIA GeForce Now. They aren't the only ones. What's the most recent that has backed out? Activision Blizzard has pulled out. And there's one more. Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, and 2K games. So Borderlands and Civ are no longer on GeForce Now, or I don't want to say have no hope of coming to GeForce Now. But why are all these publishers leaving? It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that, nobody shed any tears for Google Stadia. But we are shedding tears for GeForce Now. A lot of us have been using GeForce Now for years, since about 2014. I've been using GeForce Now since I have NVIDIA Shield products, the tablet, the portable, and the Shield TV. I've been using GeForce Now since 2015 when I first got the Shield portable. Man, I wish NVIDIA would release another portable or another tablet. They're not going to. Not anytime soon because of they entered the deal with Nintendo. The chips that they demoed in those Shield products are now in the Nintendo Switch. So I doubt NVIDIA would put out a competing tablet with the Nintendo Switch. Who knows? I would be pleasantly surprised. A tablet and the Switch are, two totally different things, so to speak. But the technology, the system on chip, the SoC, the NVIDIA Tegra X1 is the same in the Shield TV as it is in the Nintendo Switch. So I doubt they'd put the X1 into a tablet. That would be so awesome if they did. But back to the subject at hand. Why are these publishers pulling out of GeForce Now? I think the most common answer, the most logical the logical answer is that each side has to figure out how to make money from it. So right now there's 2 tiers of NVIDIA GeForce Now. You can get it for free, play with only minor drawbacks with the free account, or you can right now pay $5 a month and get all the extra perks. You can game in 4K. You can have access to HD. Actually, you can't game in 4K. I take that back. You get access to ray tracing, 6-hour gaming sessions instead of just 1 hour, and some other perks. So even with the paid service, these publishers, Bethesda, 2K, and others, have to figure out how they're going to make money off of these games. Is NVIDIA going to pay them out of their pocket to host their games? They're figuring all that out. Will you have to pay another subscription? Let's say you subscribe to GeForce Now for $5 a month, which you then have to subscribe to Beta or Bethesda for $5 a month. What if you already own Bethesda games? What if you already own Civilization or other 2K games? The point I'm trying to make here is it's kind of a quagmire. And part of me doesn't get it, because GeForce Now has been in beta for years with tons of games being available to play for free on GeForce Now. Tons. So now when they go public, there's hardly anything that you can stream over GeForce Now right now. You can definitely stream games that you already own. I know that you can... if there's games that you have on Steam that are also available on GeForce Now, you can definitely play it. Like I can play Rocket League on GeForce Now because I own I've already bought Rocket League in Steam. Psyonix has not made any sort of threat that they're going to pull out of GeForce Now. So why are all these companies driving like flies? So the GeForce Now general manager, and I'm taking this from Engadget.com. I'll include the link in the podcast description to this article. The GeForce Now general manager, Phil Eisler, had this to say, quote, "As we approach a paid service, some publishers may choose to remove games before the trial period ends. Ultimately, they maintain control over their content and decide whether the game you purchase includes streaming on GeForce Now. Meanwhile, others will bring games back as they continue to realize GeForce Now's value. Stay tuned for more on that. As the transition period comes to completion, game removals should be few and far between, with new games added to GeForce Now each week." End quote. That last part that Phil Eisler mentioned, as the transition period comes to completion, game removals should be few and far between, with new games added to GeForce Now each week. End quote. That's been my takeaway from all of this, is that GeForce Now, overall, it's a great service. I am not paid by NVIDIA, or by any means. The last NVIDIA graphics card I bought was a GTX 980 back in 2016, 2015-ish. I have not given NVIDIA a dime, one dime, for years, almost half a decade. That said, GeForce Now, I've been using it for so many years, and it is, as far as cloud gaming goes, it is just superior to anything else out there. We were rooting for GeForce Now. It's a great service. The technology is great for what it is. The shakeup doesn't in the end, the shakeup doesn't completely surprise me, because as Phil Eisler mentioned, I think that things are gonna take time to settle. It's gonna take time for dust to settle. This is a new frontier in gaming, so publishers are gonna have to figure out with NVIDIA, and if any other sort of game streaming service comes along, maybe, I don't know, Google Stadia will get their crap together. Either way, publishers are going to have to figure out how they're going to stay profitable as cloud gaming becomes the future. Cloud gaming has ramifications all throughout the industry, not just with publishers figuring out how they're going to sell games through cloud gaming and game streaming, but hardware developers, Sony, Microsoft, Xbox and PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. What's next? As far as PlayStation 6 is concerned, or whatever the next god-awful nomenclature for Xbox they're going to come out with. By the next generation of consoles, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, possibly, will they need to have 8-core or 10-core processors and ray tracing native in the GPUs inside, Navi GPUs and what have you? How's game streaming going to change all that? Is the PS6 just going to be this little flat console, basically the size of a tablet or a smartphone, that just kind of sits under your TV, has no beefy hardware on its inside because everything is run on external servers through NVIDIA or through AMD, and you don't need all the hardware on your end? To some degree, it's going to be a hybrid of both. Mark my words, in the near future, it's going to be a hybrid of both. I've talked at length about game streaming and that there just at the end of the day, there's no way around physics, that there's no way you're going to get to an esports tournament anytime soon, anytime within the next decade, at least, if ever. You're never going to go to an esports venue or watch a televised esport event and not have the participants sitting in front of an actual computer or an actual game console running the game natively. Where frames matter, where lag matters, where input latency matters, nothing will beat running the game natively. But all that said, game streaming is still going to revolutionize the way people play video games. One of the hybrid applications, this isn't actually game streaming, so to speak, but with high-speed internet being what it is, and I still think data caps are stupid, I've alluded to, I won't go into detail here because I've talked about it before. Games are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're going to have games that are 200, 300, 400, 500 gigabytes in size, a terabyte in size here in the near future. You're not going to save the entire game locally to your solid-state drive, because the solid-state drive that's in the PS5 or in the Xbox Series X may only be 1 terabyte. You might upgrade it to 2 terabytes. You might upgrade it to 4 terabytes down the line when 4 terabyte drives become less expensive. 6 terabytes, however the technology progresses, if the games themselves are a terabyte in length or half a terabyte in size, it would be a tall order to ask the consumer to store the entire game locally. So I think it's going to basically download games in chunks. So as you're halfway through chapter 1 of a game, so to speak, it's already pre-downloaded chapter 2. Let's say there's 10 chapters in a game. It's only going to download chapters as you go. It's kind of going to buffer and kind of pre-download. Just like when you watch YouTube and you see the buffer bar going forward beyond the cursor to show you how much of the video is pre-buffered and available. If the internet connection goes out, you can only watch what's left in that buffer. Same thing with Netflix. It's kind of going to be the way that gaming goes. Yes, it's going to be, for the near future, it's going to be run off of your local hardware. It's going to be run off of your PlayStation 5, your Xbox Series X. But it's going to be downloading the actual game data as you go. Another thing to consider. Oh, and it just escaped my mind. So, one game that I'm looking forward to. Well, it's really the only game that I'm looking forward to now. Anytime people say, what about this game coming out? Can you wait for this game to come out? Oh, I can't wait for this next title, and this next title. Have you played Half-Life Alyx yet? Dude, I'm just waiting for Microsoft Flight Simulator 20. For Flight Simulator 2020. I've already told my boss, I've already put it into his brain, that depending on when Flight Sim 2020 releases, I might actually request a day off of work. I hope it releases on a Friday so that I can just come home and immediately play it all through the weekend. I'm going to be into doesn't matter. I'm psyched. I'm geeking out about Flight Simulator 2020. I forget the exact stat off the top of my head, but if you were to compile the entirety of Flight Simulator 2020 together, it is a down to the square centimeter 1:1 scale reproduction of the entire planet Earth. Every square millimeter, every square centimeter of the Earth's surface is mapped and reproduced in Microsoft Simulator, Flight Sim 2020. They added it up. The whole game, if you were to download it on your own, it would be multiple petabytes. Petabytes of storage. We do not have petabyte hard drives now. That's 1,000 terabytes. That's a petabyte. We don't have that right now. Is it 1,000 terabytes? It's a lot. It is massive. There's not one single hard drive in existence that can store a petabyte. To have a petabyte, you need multiple hard drives. You need many, 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 many hard drives. So there's no possible way. The point here is that there's no possible way for any user to download the entirety of Flight Simulator and play it locally off their machine. There was some article, and again, if I can find it, I'll put it in the podcast description, but someone did the math. For as many petabytes in size as Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 is going to be, you would need to spend something like $300,000 on hard drives. And somebody pointed out that basically you could get your pilot's license and commercial license and buy a jet for $300,000. That if you were that hardcore about Flight Simulator that you're going to spend $300,000 to have enough hard drives, basically fill a room in your house with hard drives to store just the one game, that you might as well go out, get your pilot's license and buy a jet. Buy a few airplanes, or buy one really nice airplane. That money would be better spent in that application. But the point is, the game's huge. So Flight Sim 2020 is definitely going to be a hybrid gaming experience. You are going to be running the game locally on your own hardware. Make no mistake, we don't know the official specs yet of system requirements or recommended system requirements for Microsoft yet. We have no idea, but we can speculate that it's going to be quite an intense game to run, so you're going to need quite optimized hardware. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, part of me would be surprised, part of me wouldn't, if they said you need a processor with 8 cores, or at least 6-core processor, that the minimum system requirements is going to be 6 cores of processing, or 6 threads at least of processing, which wouldn't make sense because there's no 3-core processors anymore. The point is, I think it's going to recommend more than quad-core. Now, I hope it just says quad-core. I hope it just says quad-core processor at 3 gigahertz and then at least a GTX 970 or something like that. I don't think that's going to be the case. I hope that's going to be the case, and I would welcome that being the case, that you could still have a GTX 970 or the equivalent AMD graphics card and a quad-core, i5 or an i3, and be able to run Flight Sim 2020 natively at reduced settings. But the way Flight Sim 2020 is shaping up, it's going to be massive, which means that it's already been established that you need an internet connection to play Flight Sim 2020. That's not to say that there might be some local arcade type modes that run 100% natively off your own hardware. But for the full Flight Sim experience, let's say you want to fly from Los Angeles to New York City, or Houston to Chicago, something like that. There's a lot of terrain, there's a lot of data that it's going to need to pull from Microsoft's servers to populate that terrain. Now, yes, the airplane will be modeled and rendered and everything off of your computer, and whatever scenery probably that you can see to the horizon, depending on settings. I don't know how exactly it's going to work, but everything coming up, everything being rendered in real time is most likely going to be a hybrid setup where you're going to be pulling information constantly over your internet connection. That essentially, when you take off in Los Angeles, New York City is not there yet. It's not in your system yet. It's not in your RAM yet. It's not in your GPU's graphics memory yet. It's waiting for you to get close enough, and then it's going to pull from Microsoft's servers over the Ethernet connection and start drawing those parts of the terrain. So Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 is already ushering in this new era of hybrid cloud gaming and running on local hardware. It's going to get very, very interesting over the next few years. There's so many things that are going to get just absolutely fascinating over the next 5 years. Mark my words, you heard it on Geek Therapy Radio first. The next 5 years, as far as computers and technology are concerned, are going to be, I'm not going to say tumultuous. I'm not going to say bad. I have stated on this show a few times before that the physical aspect of Moore's Law is we're plateauing more and more. It's no longer 18 months of double processor speed per, square inches per square millimeter. We're getting down to the 7 nanometer process. Transistors, basically, on the microscopic level, 7 nanometers. We're getting a little below 7 nanometers. We're getting to 5 nanometers. I think Apple is working on 5 nanometer architecture. The theoretical limit of Moore's Law says that you can't have a transistor smaller than a hydrogen atom. You need some sort of binary substance to change states from a 0 to a 1, from an on to an off position, from an on to an off state, 0 to 1 state. And the smallest thing that we can do that, the smallest theoretical, is getting down to a single atom of hydrogen. And I believe that's 1 nanometer. No. It's 0.01 nanometer. I looked it up. I mentioned it before on Geek Therapy Radio. So that doesn't necessarily mean that we can get. That means that, okay, if we're at, let's just say we're at 5 nanometers now. Let's say Apple is working on 5 nanometers and their next bionic chip, whatever, the industry gets to 5 nanometers. What's the roadmap from there? What's the architecture roadmap in manufacturing process roadmap? Can we make machines that are capable of making transistors smaller than 5 nanometers? Smaller than the 5 nanometer process? It's going to get increasingly difficult, and not difficult in a way where we went from vacuum tubes to transistors, and smaller and microcircuits and ICs, integrated circuits. It's not going to be like that. It's not going to be the last 50 years. It's going to be like the last 50 years since the atomic age went by really fast. We made incredible advancements over the last 50 years. It's these last 5 years where we're really going to be straining and squeezing every last drop of what we can conceivably think is humanly possible with computers based on binary function, based on bits, zeros and ones, ons and offs, hole punches and paper, back when they had punch cards that represented data. It's going to get interesting. That's where you get into quantum computing, qubits. The various states, Honeywell just made an advance in quantum computing where they came up with a new way to create qubits in what I think they call it. Oh my gosh. I just did a whole show on it. Oh gosh. I hate mentioning things because now I need to go back and look it up. Was it an ion trap? Let's see. Going back to Ars Technica. This is the podcast. This is what we do. We float around. Sometimes I say a thing and I need to go look up a thing and fill the content while I talk over myself. While I snap around here. What is this? Science? I guess it would be under science. Thank you for bearing with me. I guess I can edit this out if I want. Yeah. Honeywell. Maybe I won't edit this out. Ion trap. What did I call it? Did I call it the ion trap? Whatever. It's basically a cooler running way of doing quantum computing that reduces manufacturing as being a possible area to troubleshoot. That the manufacturing process with what Honeywell's developed and with ion traps means that there's less defects prone. It's less prone to defects in the manufacturing process. I am recording this at 2:30 in the morning, by the way. I think I'm doing all right for 2:30 in the morning. I remembered that I need to get 3 podcasts out a week. I just recorded the broadcast. I just edited it, put it all together, and realized I only have 1 podcast this week, so I need to put out another podcast tonight. And then put out the broadcast podcast on Monday. Maybe I might do it on Sunday. We'll see. Either way, the next 5 years are going to be fascinating. In the immediate future, in the immediate future, so the next year, the next 12 months, here's what to look out for. And we're getting into a bit of consumer advice kind of area here. If I'm the first one to bring this issue up, I would be surprised if you haven't heard this in other avenues, maybe on other YouTube channels, tech YouTubers, other podcasts. Even before coronavirus started messing with the market, there has been increased demand on solid-state storage for two reasons, for a few reasons. And Sony's battling this. Sony has mentioned this, that they can't possibly conceive of how they can manufacture on their end PlayStation 5s for less than $480 out of their pocket. There's increased demand on solid-state storage and other components. Because the new generation of consoles coming out, Sony and Microsoft are vying for the solid-state memory, flash memory market. You have the whole new round of smartphones coming out with, 8 gigs, 12 gigs. Are there any smartphones with 16 gigabytes of RAM? A lot of RAM, a lot of solid-state flash memory in there. Also the storage, 1 terabyte of storage in new flagship smartphones. So storage, flash memory, solid-state drives, all that stuff is going to be high demand. RAM, so building a computer with DDR4 RAM, there's going to be increased demand there. The point is, increased demand on computer components means that the price of every computer, almost every computer component, is going to go up. So like I mentioned, your RAM, your solid-state storage, your graphics cards, they have, what are we up to? GDDR6 right now, NVMe or VBM memory. Graphics cards take memory. That flash stores, the solid-state, it's RAM. It's all tied together, and the price of that stuff is going to go up. So I had dreams of building a 16-core 3950X based AMD computer build. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough money saved up, soon enough before the prices start getting jacked up. I'm going to have to wait probably realistically thinking, it may be another year or two before I can afford to drop considerable coin on building a new PC. I've already kind of budgeted it out in my head. Right now, based on current prices, I've thought, okay, about $1,200 is what it's going to take me to build a new system around a 3950X, because I already have some other components. I already have a GTX 980. I don't plan on upgrading the GPU with this system. Basically, all I need is the CPU itself, so the 3950X CPU itself. I need a new motherboard, obviously, an X570 motherboard, and I need DDR4 RAM. Those are the three things that I need to build a new system, and that is going to cost, right now, I've budgeted, it's about $1,200. $700 at my local Micro Center for the 3950X. That might go up soon. Something like $120 for the RAM, another $200 or so for the motherboard. So you're getting $700, $900, about $1,000, in between $1,000 and $1,200. That's as of right now. That price is going to go up. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 2 or 3 months if that estimate would probably be, for the same system, probably factor in about $1,500. Add $300 to it. That RAM is going to go up, possibly not double in price, but it's going to go up significantly. Solid state storage is going to go up significantly. Everything have to do with computers is going to go up significantly. And remember, that's just because of increased demand on those components. Now factor in coronavirus causing tech companies to stop shipping products, to cease the product leaving their warehouses, leaving their factories. The factories that are making the RAM are going to be affected by coronavirus and the scare of coronavirus. The markets are going to reflect this. The markets have been reflecting this. So you've got increased demand and theoretically decreased output. That means that's bad news bears for PC builders. I wish I had enough money right now to build my PC before the storm hits. I know there's some people listening to this that an extra $200 or $300 premium on top of a system build. Let's say like I said, let's say you budgeted $1,000 for a system build. Some people listening aren't going to care that in the end that in the height of all this, that system could go up to $1,300 for the exact same list of parts. Some of you won't care about that. Most of us do. Most of us care a lot about that in terms of wanting to build new systems, in terms of budgeting anything. So I'm happy with what I got. Once again, my system is a i7 4790K overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz. That GTX 980 I mentioned, 32 gigs of DDR3 RAM. Got my Oculus Rift, the first generation Oculus Rift here. I'm good, you know. I can't complain. My Corsair mechanical keyboard, Corsair gaming mouse. I'm looking at it. I'm not going to go over everything I have sitting in front of me, but, you know, I've got this big screen TV, 70-inch big screen TV. I've got overclocked to 110 hertz that I got after my father passed away. I'm okay. I'm looking at guitars. I'm looking at whenever I feel like I really need something. Whenever I feel like that's a better word, want. Whenever I feel like I really want something, it's really hard for me to feel like I still want it, because I always remind myself, the more I want something, as badly as I want a material thing, I just kind of take a step back and stop. I walk up to the man cave, to where I'm recording right now. My microphone works just fine. You're hearing what I'm saying just fine. Got great monitors. I have a couple cassette decks and tape recorders. I've got plenty. Ask my wife. I've got plenty of nerd stuff, of geek stuff around here. I've Atari ST, Commodore 64, VHS copy of Jurassic Park. Below my 15-inch CRT monitor, and then another CRT TV hooked up to my NES, original NES, Super Nintendo. I'm looking at a cubicle of Game Boys, a PSP 1000, PSP 3000, an array of arcade sticks, of fight sticks. Here's the Zapper. Listen to this. This is the Nintendo NES Zapper. Oh, if that isn't ASMR, I don't know what is. Oh my gosh, I could do that all night. So I've got what I need, you know? If this round of building PCs comes and goes and I can't afford it because prices are going to skyrocket, I've got way more than most people have. I am so incredibly privileged to have even a 5-year-old PC. There's some people listening right now that don't even have a PC that's modern within 5 years. That's still fully VR capable. I can go virtual reality. If I want to escape, I go virtual reality. I've got enough to run virtual reality. So do I want to build a new a system around the 3950X? And will there be benefit to that as far as rendering times and being able to churn out more work faster? Abso-freaking-lutely. It's going to be night and day difference from going to quad core to 16 core, from going from 8 threads to 32 threads. That's going to make a massive, massive difference in my workload that fully utilize all the cores. But do I need it? Don't need it. Looking around, I've got enough stuff to keep me interested, keep me occupied, that I can tinker with. Got this Hot Wheels track over here that I can build across the floor. I'm all right. It's good. Maybe I'm rambling a little bit because it's now 2:39 in the morning. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you for sticking with me. I definitely know a few of you definitely stick around and listen to the entire podcast, and I very much appreciate it. I'm on an Alter Bridge kick right now. I used this song in the broadcast, and I chopped it up into 4 segments, for airing on the actual radio. But I'm going to play it in its entirety here. I bumped in with it. I'm going to bump out with the rest of it. Basically, you're going to hear it in its entirety. You know what I'm going to do here? No. I'm going to bump out with the song from the start, from the intro to the end. So when I stop talking, that's when the first lyrics are going to come in. It's going to be nice and tight and super polished like that. But I'm just jonesing on Alter Bridge. They're coming to Houston in May. I'm definitely going to that show at the House of Blues. I believe it's at the House of Blues. I'm going to try to get Alter Bridge on Geek Therapy Radio. I'm going to try to get Alter Bridge on Geek Therapy Radio. I've had decent luck in the past getting some, bigger names on here. So I'm going to try to see what I can do to get Alter Bridge. Usually when bands come to towns, they're looking for radio promotion, so it's not the most difficult thing in the world if you have any sort of radio connection to get on their radar. We'll see what their manager says. Usually I can get in touch with their manager, and it's up to their manager. No, I don't think they're going to want to do that. Try us next time, though. They're really cordial about it. I'll try to get Alter Bridge. So the song you're listening to right now is by Alter Bridge. I forget the title to it. I'm so sorry. It's just so late. My brain is fried. This is called Take the Crown by Alter Bridge. When did they release this song? How long ago? They put it up on YouTube. Oh, August 2019. Okay. It's been out for a while. May 20th, Houston, Texas, House of Blues. Oh, yeah. The album's called Walk the Sky. So anyways, thank you so much for listening to Geek Therapy Radio. I've been Johnny Hemorrhager, your mental curator. Remember that you are worthy of love. Please. You are worthy of giving love. You are worthy of receiving love. You are worthy of loving yourself. You are worthy of your own self-respect. If you take away anything from any of these podcasts, from anything that you listen to of me, please take away that you are worthy. Just that you're worthy. Tell yourself every day that you're worthy. It sounds cliche, it might sound stupid, but as long as it rattles around in your brain, who knows, you might be able to pull it out of your head in a dark time. You know what Johnny said, I'm worthy. Maybe I'll start believing that I'm worthy, and it'll help you out. I hope it helps you out. So anyways, here's Take the Crown from Alter Bridge. Talk to you guys later.
So sorry.